It's been a great honor and privilege to serve as AACP president during the past year. My experience has surpassed my expectations. Many people during that time has commented about the passion I demonstrate for what I do and for my students. I'm a firm believer that passion is important in both our personal lives and our professional lives. And we must find outside sources such as music, nature, literature to fuel our passion. I hope my passion as an educator has come through during my tenure as president. I guess it has to do with being a Boilermaker all my life. We tend to get fired up when pursuing our passions. And I hope I have conveyed that. I've had the opportunity to work with an outstanding board of directors and very talented AACP staff. I have learned much more about what makes an organization tick and how all of the work that goes on, and about all the work that goes on behind the scenes, and there's a tremendous amount of that. My professional circle has been expanded greatly with everyone I have met during my tenure. One of the highlights has been my participation with the Joint Commission of Pharmacy Practitioners, where the pharmacy profession is banding together to establish the pharmacist-patient care process as the model to provide pharmacy services to patients, also we've talked about promoting provider status for pharmacists and establishing a nationwide standard for technician education and training. I am very happy to report that the association continues to make great progress in implementing the 2016 strategic plan first drafted under past President Joe DiPiero's chairmanship. Initiatives like Pharmacy is Right for Me expanded dramatically during the past 2 years, and we work to enrich the applicant pipeline. Others will be implemented and enhanced. While the number of applicants continues to be a challenge, it's very important to keep in mind that we are involved in a marathon, not a sprint. This priority continues to be the highest for the association. I'm happy to report that there's been significant progress during the past year regarding strategic priority number 2, creating a new portrait of pharmacists and pharmacy careers. This priority is key to changing the public image of pharmacy, expanding understanding of our very diverse and impactful role, and in making further progress to attract young, talented students into the profession. Our JCPP partners and others are very excited about the initiatives that we are leading regarding this particular strategic priority. Last summer, we engaged in our network of brand ambassadors in the hashtag Healthy Starts Here campaign. We increased our social media following on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and last fall, we launched the new AACP website, which is intuitive and user-friendly. And in January, we began planning the National Pharmacy Awareness Campaign, which is launching now. You will learn more about this campaign from our Agency on Record, RP3, during the session tomorrow afternoon at 3:30 p.m. During this past year, I have witnessed the rollout of member services that have enhanced the internal function of AACP and the external face of the organization. These initiatives are aligned with strategic priority number 5, member services, and strategic priority number 8, infrastructure, technology, and knowledge management. Notable accomplishments include the launching of AACP Connect as one of our members' primary means of communication and information sharing. On top of that, the website reboot, AACP switched to a new association management software system which houses our member data and services like this meeting registration. I would be remiss if I did not mention member engagement during the past year. We currently stand at 4,532 members, with a record number of members participating in our councils, sections, SIGs, and committees. And there has been an amazing portfolio of webinars presented during the past year. As our organization has grown, we have been challenged to manage the huge number of submissions for programs, and especially our annual meeting. The board has taken this concern very seriously and has worked with our talented meeting staff to allow for more program submissions to be accepted in the future. The programming committee, under the direction of Shawanda Flowers, took on the Herculean task of sorting through a record number of 401 program submissions for only 68 slots in the program. Many of the proposals not selected were referred to the sections and SIGs for programming needs in their sessions or for presentations at roundtables and/or posters. At the same time, the committee has been taking additional steps to assure all programming meets a very high standard before being considered. Next year, look for a move away from 90-minute program sessions to more 30 and 60-minute sessions to free up more time slots for programming. Last year in my address to the House of Delegates, I commented on how we are facing great challenges in attempting to right the healthcare system that continues to consume a greater percentage of our gross national product without improving outcomes. This past year, we have witnessed numerous attempts to dismantle the Affordable Care Act, which has resulted in more of our citizens being without health care coverage. The opioid crisis, and most recently the focus on excessively high prescription drug prices, has placed our profession at the center of many of these issues. What I am most proud of is the fact that in many of our members and in many of our colleges, we are working to address many of these issues. And an excellent example is the work on the opioid epidemic by our colleagues at Eastern Tennessee State University, who recently received the U.S. Public Health Service IPEC Public Health Excellence in Interprofessional Education Collaboration Award in Washington, D.C. The healthcare environment which our graduates enter presents both challenges and opportunities. Although it once was said by someone who will remain nameless that fixing healthcare is easy, those of us who research or are involved in the day-to-day operations of our current delivery system know that it is complex, wasteful, inequitable, and does not produce the expected outcomes based upon the dollars spent. I charged the Argus Commission this past year, made up of our 5 most recent AACP presidents, who I like to refer to as our Jedi Council, to examine the National Academy of Medicine's publication, Vital Directions for Health and Healthcare. Excuse me. And suggest roles that pharmacy and pharmacy education can play in addressing the report. The commission issued a series of recommendations. Of note is the need to place greater emphasis on graduates' abilities to utilize health informatics, data analytics, and quality measures. Additionally, they emphasize the importance of implementing value-based practice and payment models. Universal implementation of the pharmacist-patient care process throughout educational programs and in all patient care settings was deemed essential to ensure a consistent model of care provided by pharmacists in order to generate the necessary data to show the true value of pharmacists. You may recall that during my address to the House of Delegates last year, I referred to Simon Sinek's Golden Circle and how leaders and organizations often spend most of their time and effort focusing on the what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, not on why they're going to do something. Simon Sinek, he places the why at the center of the Golden Circle and stresses that once we answer the why, the what and the how seems to take care of itself. My goal during the past year was to challenge AACP, our standing committees, and its members to focus on the student as the most important person on our campuses and see them as the why. To that end, my communications to our members and my charges to the standing committees all had a student-centered focus. I also appointed student members to many of the standing committees to assure their voices were heard. After 2 years of work, the Research and Graduate Affairs Committee, chaired by Sam Poliak, completed its work addressing some of the barriers that students see to pursuing graduate education. The committee relied heavily on the framework of graduate education competencies, or CAPE-like competencies for graduate education, that were developed during the first year of the committee's work. These outcomes expanded the typical view of graduate education, being primarily knowledge and research, to include outcomes focusing on education, leadership, management, and personal and professional development. This broader set of outcomes should make pursuing a graduate degree more attractive and also better equip graduates to pursue and secure employment in a wider variety of healthcare fields. Based upon my personal experiences of working with engaged student pharmacists during my career, I charged the Strategic Engagement Committee, chaired by Gina Moore, to identify best practices within colleges of pharmacy of using the talents of their students to enhance the engagement activities both within and outside the colleges. They identified or suggested numerous examples linked closely with strategic priorities 1, 2, and 3. The committee found that linking student engagement to community engagement as graduates entering practice is a greater challenge, but suggested AACP might use its influence in JCPP to drive home the message that community service is important across the lifespan of a pharmacist's work. Speaking of engagement, during my past year, the board of directors has discussed the importance of our association, but also the greater pharmacy community, about speaking out on these broader issues that negatively impact the health of our nation, such as poverty, mental illness, and gun violence. We as healthcare professionals must be vocal and take a stand and focus in the fact that many of these social issues have greater impact on patients' health care than the care they actually receive. And we can no longer remain silent with respect to these very, very important issues. Strategic Priority 3 focuses on innovations in education and practice. The Academic Affairs Committee, chaired by Michael Fulford, was charged to examine cultures of teaching and learning in our colleges and what might be necessary to align teaching strategies with tomorrow's learners. In addition, the committee examined the issue of lifelong learning. The committee's work resulted in recommendations focusing on the following: the need for universal recognition of the scholarship of teaching and learning as valuable in scholarly work at all of our colleges, just not a few. Recognizing the time and effort necessary to implement, refine, and maintain new pedagogical approaches. The need for grant funding to support educational innovation, and that any discussion of lifelong learning must involve faculty, students, and practitioners. The committee's work aligned nicely with the aspects of Strategic Priority 3. As an example, this year AACP initiated the first call for SOTL grants, where over 100 letters of interest and 90 final submissions were received. These ranged across all disciplines and across all types of schools, with most having direct applicability to Strategic Priority number 3. The Academic Affairs Committee members, COF leaders, and staff reviewed these submissions, and 10 grants of $4,000 were awarded in June. I want to publicly thank the American Foundation for Pharmaceutical Education, and particularly their president, Ellen Wood, for their $10,000 contribution that allowed us to increase the number of grants in this cycle. We're very excited about this new opportunity to stimulate educational research in our academy. Historically, advances in teaching and learning have focused on didactic rather than experiential portions of the curriculum. Since at least 1/3 of our students' education occurs outside the walls of our classrooms and in colleges themselves, we must assure that our preceptors have the skills and abilities to teach our students about CAPE, the PPCP, and EPAs. Based on their charge, our Professional Affairs Committee, chaired by Susan Voss, developed a self-reflection, self-assessment tool for pharmacy faculty and preceptors to allow them to self-assess their ability and their capabilities and confidence to teach these important CAPE outcomes, EPAs, et cetera. The tool was piloted, and the committee recommends expanding its use across the academy to identify content that's needed for continuing professional development of our particular preceptors. Another outcome of this committee's work and work of the association is that we are initiating an ambitious preceptor engagement program, and you will learn more about that at this particular meeting. Last year, I asked members from all of our institutions to take the steps necessary to assure the success and well-being of our students, not only in the classroom and the practice site, but in their careers and personal lives as well. The Student Affairs Committee, chaired by my good friend Monica Miller, took on this very important charge of increasing student resilience and well-being and developed a robust list of recommendations that I will personally continue to champion. Unfortunately, during the 6 months the committee examined this issue, 2 member schools represented just on the committee, including my own, lost a student pharmacist to death by suicide. I imagine if this statistic was part of one of the annual AACP surveys, we would be shocked at the total number. Regardless, I think you would have to agree that even one is too many. 3 key outcomes of the committee's work surfaced from the report. First, the broader student voice must play a larger role in addressing this particular issue. We cannot just sample our student leaders and high achievers. We have to look for those faces in the crowd that many of us don't know very well. Second, targeted strategies to address these well-being issues must involve more than just counselors and advisors. All administrators, all faculty and staff and preceptors play a vital role. And I think that's critical to us really addressing this issue. It's easy to say, it's not my responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility to think about this issue. Much work still needs to be done, and over time, both by AACP and our colleges. This issue is directly related to strategic priorities 1, 2, and 3. Potential students will not be attracted to careers that adversely impact their sense of well-being, and our students and faculty cannot work together to assure learning if their physical and mental health are at risk. I am happy to say that the Fall AACP Institute will focus on well-being and mindfulness among our students and faculty to facilitate a shift in the culture of pharmacy education. At the board meeting, we discussed this issue, and one thing that was not included in the call for participation is about potentially bringing a student from your campus as part of your team. And that is something I believe that's going to be encouraged moving forward. In addition to AACP, will petition to join the National Academy of Medicine's Action Collaboration on Clinician Well-Being following this meeting. When I look back over the past year, I'm quite proud of all the association has been able to accomplish, thanks to the dedicated efforts of our volunteer members and staff. Our efforts, including the move of our headquarters to 1400 Crystal Drive, are the result of a strict alignment with the strategic plans that was adopted by the House 2 years ago. The board intent was to make the plan ambitious, visionary, and flexible, and to date, I can say that we fulfilled that goal. The recommendation coming from this year's committees will be aligned with the 8 strategic priorities to be sure they bear fruit. Many challenges remain before this academy, but I am confident under the future leadership of President-elect David Allen and President-elect-designate Todd Sorensen, as well as all of the support that you will provide them, our academy will thrive and address these challenges with both innovation and persistence. A couple of months ago, I shared with the academy that as a student-focused educator, commencement and other activities associated with honoring our graduate was my most wonderful time of the year. Even the olive green velvet trim on the commencement robes looks a little less drab and takes on special significance at that particular time. Extending congratulations and thanking the graduates for their contributions they have made to my professional life is always special, but an emotional time for me as well. I would have to say that attending the AACP annual meeting is my second most wonderful time of the year. Meeting and catching up with colleagues, honoring our peers, and being enlightened with new knowledge and innovations in education. Wow. Kind of feels like I should be leading you in song right now. Pouring out some eggnog, or perhaps even donning our ugly pharmacy sweaters. I hope you feel the same way I do over the next 4 days. This is my 30th annual meeting, and I can say with confidence that I have left each meeting feeling recharged. I have one final request of you during my presidential year. That request is for each of you to reach out and introduce yourselves to someone you don't know. Share your experiences. If you don't have any experiences, ask for advice. Better yet, offer to buy them a cup of eggnog while you're here. Thank you for your attention and best wishes for a productive annual meeting.